Hi, this is Wesley Lawton, the therapist at Growing Forward Counseling. I work here in Mount Clemens and I see people in person, Mount Clemens, Michigan. And I also work with people across the state via telehealth. And so this is another one of my videos where I explain some different ideas and concepts, and sometimes those are pretty specific. And other times, like today, they're maybe a little bit, they might come across as kind of abstract, but I hope in this case you will find that it applies to quite a few different situations. And hopefully, a situation that you watching this might be in, and you find this concept helpful. And so, we're going to be talking about systems, we're going to be talking about um, homeostasis, resisting change, and disruption and opportunity. So, hopefully, that sounds like a good time to you. I'm feeling a little under the weather today, and so pardon me if I cough. I realize that I can't mute while I'm recording this, and so hopefully I can get through it without coughing. It's a short and sweet one today, relatively short compared to some of my other videos, which are like 30 or 40 minutes oftentimes. So, first of all, systems. Many people go through their whole lives without an awareness of systems, but um, more and more people, I think, in our society are becoming aware of them. A system is basically a group of people or a culture where there are expectations and there are norms. And so you think about a family culture, right? That is a system. Um, it's like this is the way that we do things in this family. You think about a work culture, there's a system there. You think about, on a bigger scale, economic systems like capitalism or economic socialism, or you think about religious systems. Again, these are the expectations. This is the way that we do things in this system. And if you're a part of this system, then you are expected to uh, submit to that system's norms. Okay, that's my explanation of systems. And so, um, systems have homeostasis pretty much across the board. And what homeostasis is when an organism or a system wants to keep things the same, right? So you think about our bodies, many of us believe anyway, have a sense of homeostasis. We want things to be, our bodies want to be healthy, right? You get a cut, the cut heals. You get a virus, and you will find a way to expel that virus oftentimes. And so that's one example. But systems have homeostasis as well. And so if you, as I was describing earlier, if you try to challenge the system, if you try to do things differently within the system, if you try to break out of the system will usually resist that change, and it will try to keep that sense of homeostasis. And that can look very subtle, or it can look pretty aggressive and ugly sometimes. So you think about some of the examples that I gave earlier. If you have ever, or if you've ever observed somebody trying to do things differently, chances are you came across some resistance. You saw that happening uh, because that's what systems do. Systems like to stay the way they are and keep things the way they are. So you think about some family systems, such as addiction, right? Take alcoholism. That's usually a pretty clear example where you have specific roles in the family. You have the addict, you have somebody who is very easily submissive, and they just sort of do whatever they need to do to try to keep the peace and try to avoid conflict. You often will have sort of a scapegoat where people in the family will focus on the problems of the scapegoat when perhaps the alcohol addiction is the main source of trouble in the family, and some other specific types of roles. And when somebody in that system tries to, and by the way, in that situation, really the whole purpose of the system is to uphold the alcoholism. And so if somebody in that family, or whatever household, tries to make a change, if they try to call out the alcoholism, if they try to um, stop performing the role that they've always performed, if they try to start some kind of a serious intervention, there's going to be resistance. And um, again, the phrase, that's just not how we do things, right? That is a phrase that will come up or be hinted at in a situation like that. And So there might be threats like, if you're part of this family, then you need to, do this way, or else, um, you can't live here anymore. Perhaps that might be kind of an extreme example, or um, some other form of manipulation, um, or some other form of punishment. And so that is applicable in families where there's addiction. You think about another example from family culture is just when you try to have new experiences. And so, you know what? Some people, this one isn't 100% across the board because some people have families where there's just a lot of support for going out and branching out, doing something new, and taking another step forward from where the family started. But I have seen oftentimes, unfortunately, in families, there's a resistance to change because, well, really what it comes down to in any system is the system feels threatened, right? That's why um, there's that resistance. And so sometimes with families, if someone in the family maybe wants to move out of state or out of the country to do something new, maybe they want to leave the family business, maybe they want to attain a higher education than what the family's ever had before, maybe they want, whatever. There are norms and expectations in the family. And so sometimes when a child, for instance, is growing up and they're an adolescent or an adult and they try to do something new, there can be resistance like, oh, you think you're better than us? Or um, you just sort of treated as weird or as the black sheep of the family because you try to do something new. Uh, that's what that can look like in a family culture as far as doing something new goes. You think about a work culture. uh, maybe you want to change parts of the system, like, hey, wouldn't it be more efficient if we do it this way? Or, hey, this is a little bit shady, what's going on here? And I think that we should be a little bit more ethical about this practice. Or let's change the way that we dole out the pay in this system, or, whatever. You're going to meet some resistance because that's not the way that things are done. And the people in power generally like the way that things are done right now because that's what has put them in that place of power and helped them to maintain that power. Okay, and so the last part that I want to talk about, see if I can get through without coughing at all. Didn't expect that. But uh, systems can be disrupted, and you can push through the resistance. You can go in spite of it, and that changes the system. So, use a little very, very basic illustration here. And so you have your system, call it a circle. My marker is dying apparently. But when the system is disrupted, you can picture it like this. And that's where all sorts of interesting things can happen. Now, there's the chance in this situation that somebody's going to get hurt. There's a chance that somebody's going to get stabbed in the back. Not literally, I hope. There's a chance that somebody's going to get excommunicated. And so there's risk here. There's risk when you disrupt the system. But what is also possible in this kind of a situation is change for the system, or at least change for others within the system. And so, if you are in a situation like one of the ones that I described, or maybe something else is coming to mind, and you are realizing, hey, this system is upholding some pretty messed up stuff, and I want to try to do things differently, or I want to try to escape this system, then that creates the opportunity for others in the system to also start to do things differently or to escape the system. And that opportunity wasn't there before the system was disrupted. The homeostasis is the strongest when there's no disruption. Things are continuing on as usual. It's the hardest to take that first step to disrupt the system. But once you do, and if you keep on pushing and you keep on going, then there's increased disruption and there's more opportunity for change of the system, for change of the structure of it, or for change in individuals within that system. So, hopefully that all makes sense. I hope that you can see how this could apply to many of our lives and our relationships and our workplaces, in our societies. And I hope this concept is something that you can draw from and that you find helpful. Obviously, not every system necessarily needs to be disrupted. Some systems work pretty well, and I'm not saying necessarily fight the power here. I think, sorry, there's an old Saturday Night Live sketch. Um, it's one of the digital shorts with Andy Samberg from a long time ago, and I'm not a part of your system. If you know, you know. It's a very strange video, but you should check it out if you haven't seen it. Anyway, uh, I'm not necessarily saying that this is the way that we need to be in every situation and that all systems are bad. All systems need to be uprooted, but there are some that maybe should be. There are some that maybe should be called into question. And so it's important to know that you're going to face some resistance if you do that. And also that that will create pretty tremendous opportunity for change if that's something that you can push through. So thank you for listening. Go ahead and share this video if you think it would be helpful to somebody else. Once again, my name is Wesley Lawton, and I'm the therapist at Growing Forward Counseling. And in therapy, a lot of times we don't talk about ideas and concepts quite like this, but sometimes it does apply. Sometimes I have a client come in and they say, hey, I'm trying to do this thing differently from my family, and they're pretty upset about it, and that surprises me. So I'll pull out this illustration, I'll pull out this concept. And this happened pretty recently, multiple times within a week or two period. So I wanted to share it with you. I've got quite a few topics that are cooking. I have a list of things that I want to talk about, and it's just been hard to find time to do it. But I'm really excited for some of the continued topics that we're going to be doing. And I think I'll have more time next week. So hopefully I'll get you another video next week. Thanks again for listening. Take care.